Afternoon. It's almost good evening. I'm in Central Time here, and it's about 4 o'clock now. And I just want to come on and give you a quick this day in Black baseball history, this day African American baseball history, something we do daily around here. And what we're going to do is kind of introduce you to who I am. I'm Phil Dixon. I'm a baseball historian for more than 45 years. And just in case you've never joined us before, what I do is I give a historic fact that occurred on this day, and now we're talking about November the 12th, 2025 edition. So something that happened November the 12th that involved an African American baseball player. And once again, it may not be a baseball player playing baseball. A lot of these athletes were multi talented. So I want to make sure that you know this, not just me. And so I want to share more and more information like that so that you guys will give you something to research, something to think about, something to write about, something to talk about. And this is what we do here. So we're going to jump right into it. I try to keep my broadcast down to about 20 minutes. So if you're here just for a few minutes, that's great. If you want to stay longer, hey, stay with me. And if you want to come back, come on back. Now, if you're not catching this live, feel free to go ahead and listen and subscribe. And if you haven't subscribed yet, I encourage you to subscribe. And because we have a place calls me right when I'm going to do a broadcast. And so anyway, I want to jump right in here, guys. Okay. So let's go with a baseball player who's playing football. Now, most of you might not know this, and the football records are really different trying to keep a football record than a baseball record. Reason I froze up for a minute, but I don't always know what these players have done in the game, but I do know that they were in the game. Okay, so let's go. The first one I'm going to look at November 12th, 1904. We're going way back. Minnesota University thumped Wisconsin College in college football action at the local Northwood Field. A crowd of 20,000 people saw a super performance by Bobby Marshall, Minnesota's left end. And Minnesota now claims the Western Championships of colleges. Bobby Marshall. Have you ever heard of Bobby Marshall? He played for Minnesota. He was there 1904 through 1906, an outstanding player. Later on, he begins to kick for the team, and he won many games as a kicker playing for those teams. So that's another guy that maybe you've never heard of. So look him up, Bobby Marshall. These are people that we should be trying to write about. Now, my commentary on Marshall is this. I think I've told the story before, but I don't know which broadcast you listened to. But years ago, I was looking for Marshall. And at that particular time, we didn't have some of the things we have now that allow you to reach out to people and connect. Certainly no internet. And we didn't have any things like ancestry online, that kind of thing. You had to actually roll your sleeves up and get creative and go to communities and try to find these people. So I always knew that any African American who was doing anything and was typically, first of all, going to be in the African American community because of segregation, but people knew these guys. And so I remember calling the AME church in Minnesota and asking the pastor, I said, who is the oldest, most, the sharpest member of your church? And who I want to ask them some question about some people I know that had been around the Twin Cities. And so he gave me a name, and I reached out to that person, and sure enough, that person who Bobby Marshall, excuse me, not Bobby Robinson, that's another guy, but Bobby Marshall, who he was, and I was able to get my first information on Bobby Marshall that way. And that's an old school way of actually doing research, but believe me, it served me well. Of course, I'm also an African American Methodist Episcopal. I'm a member of that church. So I knew how the church worked, and typically they were one of the well-established churches in the community. So you just had to find that older person. And so we're talking about 1980s. And so I was talking to people who were in their 90s and late 80s at that time, so I can get all kind of information going back before the turn of the century, right up through the 20s, the 30s, the teens. And so I just picked up so much information from those people. One story I always like to tell, some of the greatest information I picked up on Bill Lindsay. And if you read about Bill Lindsay, who played with Chicago American Giants, joined the Leland Giants in older people who lived in Lexington, his hometown, that's Lexington, Missouri, than you would ever get from the newspaper. So I saved a lot of people, I would say ball players and legacies. I'll just say that by making these phone calls. And back then, if you were around, you probably remember that what you had to do was uh, most of our phone calls came through AT&T, and this is even before Sprint came online, but AT&T. And so to get the good rate for long distance, you had to wait till after 5 or 6 o'clock. You had to call late on Saturdays, on Sundays. So sometimes I had to wait or either call late at night, and you're calling 80-year-old people at 10 o'clock at night. That doesn't work good. But that's what we had to do. And that's what I did, guys. And I would spend my last dime getting an interview on some people. And because of that, guys, there are people now talking about these ball players. They have no idea how this information was saved. Okay, so that was one. Let's go. Let's go to that same year, November 12th, 1904. With the baseball/football playing William C. Matthews in the lineup, Harvard University crushed let's see, Holy Cross University by the score of 28-5 in football action. And Matthews played left end for the varsity squad. Now, Clarence Matthews is another, but he was at Harvard. And I always am proud to say that he attended Harvard at the same time as my cousin, Roscoe Conklin Bruce, and I'm sure they knew each other. So it's always an honor to talk about Matthews. Matthews, they thought was going to be the first player to break the color barrier. He certainly had the intelligence, so they couldn't say that he wasn't smart. He's at Harvard. And he was an outstanding shortstop in baseball, won many games for the Harvard baseball team. And actually, one of his teammates did go on to play I can't remember if it was the National American League, but it was one of them. One of his teammates became a famous player. But at that particular time, Matthews was just as good as this guy. But because of racism in sports, he never got the chance. And so that is Clarence Matthews. He went by William C. Matthews. Williams is his first name. He became a great attorney and actually did some interesting things. Worked with Marcus Garvey. How about that? In the Back to African movement. So, so Clarence Matthews. All right, let's go to another one. November 22nd, 1922. Okay, we got another multifaceted baseball/basketball player, Clarence Fats Jenkins, scored 8 points, and George Fiall, that's Fiall, scored 14 points in the Commonwealth Five, and that was a team, the Commonwealth's Five. That's the name of them. 35-5 win over the Manhattan team at Commonwealth Casino in New York, and so anyway, Fats Jenkins should be in the Basketball Hall of Fame, and he is in there, but he's not in there as an individual. He was with the New York Renaissance team, and they put the entire squad in there, and so he's in the Basketball Hall of Fame. That's the Naismith Basketball Hall of Fame in Springfield, Massachusetts. But he was simply an outstanding player. Don't talk about him enough. This guy played more than 15 years as a professional basketball player, and he was one of the most famous, Fats Jenkins. And we don't talk about Fats enough for his all-around ability. And to me, I don't see a lot of really good photographs of Fats Jenkins. I do have one of them that appeared in my book, The Dizzy and Daffy Dean Barnstorming Tour, Race Media, and America's National Pastime. But there's not a lot of really good photographs. There's some pretty good ones of him playing basketball with the New York Renaissance team. Have you ever heard of the New York Renaissance team? That's Bob Douglas. He was the owner of that team. Now, most people heard of Saperstein, and you know about the Harlem Globetrotters, But how many people have heard of Bob Douglas and the New York Wrens? They went by the Wrens Renaissance, and they were based out of New York, where the Harlem Globetrotters were based out of the Midwest in Chicago. So you should know about Bob Douglas too. And there's started to be more and more written about these histories, but so Fast Jenkins. And the interesting thing, I don't know, maybe he was fat as a kid, but he wasn't fat when he was playing basketball and baseball. He was simply just a good all around athlete. All right. Let's go another one. Let's go up to 1933. November the 12th, 1933. Okay, now we got a baseball player playing baseball. Okay, so pitching before a crowd of 5,000 in the first game of a scheduled doubleheader, Satchel Paige blazed his fastball past 14 batters, struck out 14. As the Royal Giants defeated Joe Peroni's All Stars by a 5-0 score. Larry French pitched for the All Stars and managed only 3 strikeouts in that same duration. And of course, he went on to be a major league pitcher in I think he was in the American League. But Satchel Paige struck out 14 of that guy's teammates, never got a shot till the 1940s when this guy's 42 years old. And so, I mean, you kind of say, what's up with this baseball history? Man, baseball history has been so skewed, so messed up. That's why some 45 years ago, I was in my 20s, decided I was going to change all this. I couldn't take it. I couldn't take it. I still can't stand some of the things that I'm seeing. And if you go and you look online and you see these stats, believe me, this shutout that Satchel Paige pitched in the Winter League is not a part of his statistics that you will find online. But I'm proud we can talk about it here and continue to talk about all of these games that need to be talked about because these guys left a legacy that is something to be proud of. Also, I am a member of the Satchel Paige Foundation. I was on the phone with Linda Page yesterday. We talk often, and she has great stories about her dad. And so we just try to make sure that nobody forgets Satchel Paige. And if you don't know any other name of any African American baseball player from the past, this is pre Jackie Robinson, then you ought to know about Satchel Paige. He was one of the greats. You need to know. Look, I tell you this: if you wanted to say, okay, let me give you my Mount Rushmore of great African American baseball players, I would definitely put Ruth Foster there. I put Satchel Paige there as a player. I probably have to put Josh Gibson there as a player. And I'm trying to think. I could put a couple of guys I really like there, but I'm trying to think. You know who else I would put there? Saul White. Saul White did so much for baseball as a player and as a manager. This guy was superb. And so that would be my Mount Rushmore. Maybe you have a better Mount Rushmore of baseball players from the era of segregation, but that would be mine. All right. So we're going to go and I'm going to give you one more. How about one more? Okay. November the 12th, 1948. Reese Goose Tatum scored 32 points in the Harlem Globetrotters' 66-30 victory in Dixon, Illinois against the Dixon All-Stars in a game played at the Dixon High School Gymnasium. These guys, you got to think about this. They are professional players, but they're forced to play in high school gymnasiums. And even if you look at the game that Fast Jenkins had, look at the scores of these games: 28-5, 28-5. It's like a completely different era of professional basketball. But one thing doesn't change: they won often, and that's the one thing. Reese Goose Tatum played baseball for the Indianapolis Clowns. A great baseball player. Could have been a serious baseball player. Could have been a serious basketball player. But he was forced to be the kind of like the funny in man to bring people to the park to make his money. And he was good at whatever he did. So if he wanted to make you laugh, he could make you laugh. But if he wanted to break up a ball game, be it basketball or baseball, he could do that. Probably could do other sports too, but I definitely know that he did play basketball and baseball at a very high level. So that's Goose Tatum. Now, I did know a lady here in Kansas City. She lived in the house where he lived in Kansas City. He stayed for a while in Kansas City. And of course, I used to talk to Elois Saperstein, and she had great stories that her dad had told her about Goose Tatum. And also, Goose Tatum eventually left the Harlem Globetrotters, and he started another team. I think they were called the Harlem Stars. And Tom Baird, who had been the co-owner of the Kansas City Monarchs from 1919, when they first signed the document, they first began play in 1920, all the way to 1955. He was the longest running owner in black baseball history, from the league standpoint. And so he actually was booking Goose Tatum's team. Of course, they had a dispute, and then a lawsuit followed. And but Goose Tatum is somebody that you need to know. Reese Goose Tatum, you know, and it's interesting today. I have William Clarence Matthews, and then Fats Jenkins' real name was Clarence. So these some of these names you might not know, and I know when I was growing up, you would hear like Connie Mack, and but if you really follow baseball, you knew his real name was Cornelius McGillicuddy. How about that? And and so even people like Yogi Berra. So if you think about it, do you know Yogi Berra's real name? You probably heard of him before, and it was Lawrence. And so but these are the kind of things when you read the backs of baseball cards. Not only did you know where they came from and that kind of thing, but you start to know these names as well, and their first, middle, and last names in some cases. And of course, um, you've heard of Jackie Robinson, and do you really know what his middle name was? Yeah, it was Roosevelt. Roosevelt, how you want to pronounce that? So anyway, guys, that does it for me today. Doing some other things, and we had got a nice day of weather here in Kansas City. So I play trumpet, so I got to make sure I keep my lungs in good shape. So I'm going to go out here and get in a good walk and go from there. Hey, I'm also starting to take my bookings for 2026. So if you have an organization and you would like to bring me there, I go all over the country, and I have a pretty good fee. It's reasonable. And usually I bring my trumpet. Sometimes I'll come out and play, take me out to the ball game. I go to minor league parks. I've even gone and stood on the dugout in the seventh inning stretch and played, take me out to the ball game. I play national anthems and those kind of things, and plan on doing more of that. But I always bring my trumpet with me whenever I go to speak, and I'm pretty good at poetry too. So I do some poetry, and I make these players come alive in ways that you haven't seen. So if you've ever seen one of my live presentations and you like it, guys, let other people know, because I think it's the best live presentation in baseball, and that means a lot, because there's white guys out here and there's black guys out here. A lot of people talking about baseball. There's some of them will actually put you to sleep. But there are some guys, I try to make mine be like the fastest 45 minutes that you ever saw. And people have told me, said, man, I can't believe you spoke for 45 minutes and it's over already. They were waiting to hear more. But guys, I've been at this a long time, and I've really honed my craft. And as you can see, I got a lot to talk about, but my presentations are really on point. And so I can talk about any area of the country. I talk about regional players, and I study well before I get there. So, guys, I'm booking, and feel free to reach out to me. And if there's something I can do to help your organization, your not-profit organization, your school, I can do Zooms to school. We can help kids too. And so just want to offer those services to you. So thank everybody for joining. And this has been the November 12th, 2025 edition of This Day in Black Baseball History. I'll be back tomorrow, man, with some good stuff. I'm looking at some guys here. I'm looking at my things for tomorrow. I got some really nice things about some guys who were born on that date. And then also, man, how about this? A guy who ran a 80-yard touchdown, a baseball slash football player, 80-yard touchdown in a big game. You might want to know about that. So join me tomorrow. And if you can't catch me live, remember, you go ahead and subscribe and you can come back and listen to me later on. And like I always say, guys, if you're looking for, say, a live with a bunch of scantily dressed women dancing in background, or somebody who's going to make you laugh and tell you all kind of crazy jokes and do something funny, guys, you're in the wrong place. Now we do have a good time, but I keep it on sports, and I try to keep it interesting, because through the years, guys, all of these people that I met, and like today, I didn't even mention that, but I didn't know Goose Tatum, but I actually met his son. And so, but these are things, maybe I have to talk about that sometime as well. So, but guys, I want to check out now. It's 20 minutes. I'm out of here, and I'll be back tomorrow. So I'll see you tomorrow. This is Phil Dixon, and this is today's version of This Day in Black Baseball History. Thank you.